making changes, and then like say if someone has the GLP-1s and some of the side effects are like really bad, which sometimes in some people they are, like especially when they first start taking it, they're like, oh man, I can't do this, I can't be. You just kind of get people like, if you're able to make it through, today and make it to the next day, if you get them focused just on making it like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a lot of those side effects lessen over time or whatever.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Lifestrong Project. I'm so pleased and so blessed to have you guys listening or viewing us today. So on today, we're going to talk about something that has impacted millions of families, especially within our community. Right? This is going to be a conversation. It has much more than just a diagnosis. Right? It's about taking ownership of our health, our future, and the legacy we leave behind. My guest on today is a pharmacist. He's a health coach. He's an educator, and he's the founder of Master Your GLP-1. He has a coaching program dedicated to helping people living with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes to take control of their own health. After receiving his own life-changing diabetes diagnosis, he turned his personal experience into a mission to educate, to encourage, and to empower others through coaching, speaking, and his Destroying Diabetes podcast. All right. Today, he's helping people replace confusion with confidence and proving that better health begins with informed choices and consistent action. I am pleased to dive into this story and explore how we can all begin taking our health back. Lifestrong family, please join me in welcoming Dr. Keith Hersey to the Lifestrong Project. Dr. Hersey, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm able to, like they said, my grandma used to say, if your eyes are open and you're breathing, it's a good day.
There you go. It's a very good day. So, hey, I again, we're honored to have you on the show today to talk about this disease that has it's proportionately, from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but proportionally it affects African Americans a little bit more than others because of various things. Could be our history, but our lifestyle, our food, the foods we eat, the lifestyle that we live, and things of that nature. So when I want to talk about your diagnosis and how it affected you first. But before we do that, let's talk about Mr. Keith Hersey. I guess let's talk about Keith Hersey before he became Dr. Keith Hersey. Let's, tell everybody where you're from and who Dr. Keith Hersey is.
Well, I am just to make sure that everything is under correct understanding. I'm glad they say that I'm a former pharmacist. I'm still a type 2 diabetic now, but I started off. I was born in New York. My family moved to North Carolina when I was in middle school to take care of my grandmother, and went to high school here in North Carolina and went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Tar Heel, let's go.
Oh, yeah. So I went there and went there for like undergraduate. I worked in the healthcare industry for about 10 years in the laboratory and as a medical technologist. And then I got the bright idea to leave that and go into pharmacy school. Okay. So when I was in pharmacy school, I was one of the old students going in there. So So that was in that being out of school for um, at the time when I began, over a decade. So, and even in the decade, a lot of stuff had changed,
Mm-hmm.
even in technology and stuff. So, but so I did that. Worked in pharmacy. Worked in the major chains. Did that for about 13, 14 years. Then I started my own pharmacy. Um, had that for about 5 years, and then got out of it, and um, and then I shifted to working on wellness coaching. I was
Okay.
already doing talking with diabetes and addressing that, but I decided to work on that full time. And my emphasis is on making doable and practical mindset shifts,
Mm.
and concentrating on that and lifestyle change more than rather than the medication. The medications are there to treat the symptoms and prevent the complications, but
Okay.
um, I really believe in working with just like a lifestyle change can do more, and then hopefully, like if you progress enough, you can reduce or maybe even possibly eliminate the medications that you have to take. And that's good for your overall health, and then
Mm-hmm.
also it's good for your pocketbook as well. As the medications have gotten more advanced, they've tend to got more
Yeah.
expensive as well.
Yes.
So that's kind of the background that I came into. And
Okay.
I'd be glad to talk about just my path as far as type 2 diabetes. Like I said, like I'm not only like someone that teaches, that I'm a patient, a client myself. So,
Oh wow. Okay. Hey, that's the best type of coach to have. Someone that's gone through it, and knows all about it. So let's backtrack a little bit. And so, when was it that you decided healthcare was your thing? So you're you mentioned Chapel Hill. I'm a huge Tar Heel fan. So when I heard that, I was like, hey, that's
yeah.
but but so when was it that you said, hey, healthcare, was it something that you always wanted to do? Was it something that you always wanted to help people? You were interested in healthcare, or was it something that just happened to wind up being in, or how did that work?
Oh, well, I was always interested in healthcare. As I said, I was very fortunate to um, live with my paternal grandmother for the last 8 or 9 years of her life,
Mm,
um, and having to take care of her, um, she had a lot of ailments. She suffered a major stroke, and that
mm,
left her partially paralyzed. So she was kind of, depended on us to help her with things, even though she was feisty and independent in
yeah,
spite of her circumstances. And she would remind us that all the time. And
okay,
and so just taking care of her and just seeing her try to manipulate, try to work through the system, and you don't get a lot of help, and especially if you're older,
mm,
you're black, you're from a lower income, you know, the system tends to look you over and tends to, not listen to you. So
mm,
I kind of inspired me to try to get in the healthcare system and try to be something different. And then coming from that background, maybe, someone that would be more sensitive to that
mm.
area. So that kind of motivated me from the beginning to get into healthcare.
That's awesome. So what was it about working with people that you enjoyed the most? I mean, you're a pharmacist, and I we always see pharmacists, like if you see them on TV, right?
Mm.
It's always it's crazy. It's always a little town, and the pharmacist knows everybody, and everybody goes into the pharmacist, and they know him by first name, and I'm sure that's not the case because I've gotten stuff from a pharmacist, and I don't know any of their names. Like
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah, yeah.
But what was it about working with people that said that had you? I'm in where I'm supposed to be.
Oh, and that was actually part of the reason why I made a change in healthcare from working like in the laboratory to working in pharmacy to have those because that's what I was missing, having those type of relationships with people. And that was the thing that I enjoyed the most about pharmacy, and that's the thing that I probably miss the most about it is the relationships that you have with people,
Mm,
just working with people, and a lot of times having that relationship. Even though I was in a pharmacy in a major city, I tried to make my pharmacy be kind of like that small town within that our neighborhood and stuff. I mean, I knew all my patients. I knew their
wow.
families. I worked in the same pharmacy for like 11, well, like about 11 years. So I've seen like patients, the kids grow up from being little kids to being college graduates. I've
Wow.
seen people that have lost spouses and lost parents. So been through that journey with them, and I always appreciated the relationship that I had with them. And a lot of times back then, they would have things where you could nominate pharmacists as favorite pharmacists, and that I could say that every year that they had it eligible, that I got that from my patients. They were voting.
Wow.
I never I never solicited. All I did was my check. Just point out when the window was open. It's like the voting is open now. For that, and that's all. And they voted me in every year. So I
Wow.
always took that as I always was thankful for that, and I always appreciate the relationships that I developed over the years.
Wow. So no campaigning on your part, huh? Just
No, no.
so all right. So um let's talk about I guess the question or the statement or whatever that changed everything. So here you are, a pharmacist. You're helping people. Pharmacist of the year. You're doing all these great things. All your patients by name and all this because they love you. And then at this point, um, are you aware? I guess that's the question. The word. Are you aware of what healthy living is like you are now? Because you've got all the knowledge. Well, most of the not. You're a pharmacist. You've gone to school. You see these people going through different ailments, and there's got to be a point where you're like, man, that's not going to be me, because I'm going to do the things I have to do, the things that I need to do for me not to go through these things that I see people go through. Was that you? Or and if so, how did all of that change when you got the diagnosis? Because as you said at the top, you're still a type 2 diabetic, correct?
Yes.
So how did that, what was that moment that, man, everything just changed?
Oh, yeah. So the thing where it changed is that when I was first became aware of it, like I said, I actually was like the first after the first year I was a pharmacist. I went to
Oh,
my one of my first pharmacy conferences. Where pharmacists association get together and they have meetings and continuing education and all that. So there was like a area, when you go to conferences and stuff, there's usually like a vendor area where
okay.
vendors have various products that they try to get you or your company to adopt or whatever and stuff like that. So there was somebody that had like a blood glucose monitors. That's what they were.
Okay.
Hawking. So I just seen he was giving free tests or whatever. So
Now, let me. So blood. Okay, so I guess we have to put it in perspective because you said blood. They were testing. Or this blood was it blood glucose
that's
monitor?
my
Is it so today that's pretty common, is it not?
yeah, yeah. So
But
so
back
back then
then,
they were trying
uh,
to get people to use this particular company's meter
gotcha.
or adopt it into their stores or whatever to
Okay,
to,
gotcha.
to sell. So they were giving the vendor was giving like free tests just to like show what their meter does or whatever and stuff. So I just took it because it was like a group of us, and when I took it, the results were like really high, and the vendor that told me that that's like really high. You probably won't get that check. And I was thinking to myself, well, that's probably just unusual because I had a big lunch and dessert and stuff because they have
Mm.
lunch before the meetings and stuff like that, and maybe it's that. He said no, this. He looked at it, he said no, that's more than just a lunch or whatever.
Wow.
So so that's how I first discovered that. So then I did go to my healthcare provider and did the test and stuff, and I, and I should have known that, there were small things that I overlooked, like some symptoms, and then with my family history, like my father and grandmother both were diabetics,
Mm.
and so eventually I was diagnosed as a type 2 diabetic. The problem was that I still was kind of in denial of it. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I was with my family history, and then that I'm a pharmacist on top of that, and then I allowed this to happen to me. So um, I went through like a series of years. Why I would get in my job and counsel other people, but I wasn't doing the things for myself because I was still kind of in denial. And
Mm.
eventually, again, if like I tell the people that I work with, if you don't deal with it, it'll deal with you. After a certain point, and then my condition worsened over time because I wasn't being adherent to uh, the my therapy that was prescribed, and not taking care of it, not making the changes that I needed to make. So it
Mm.
got worse over time, and it got to a point one time that my provider told me, "He's like, look, you're not gonna be able to see all the things that you want to see, like the milestones, the family milestones. You may not be around for that, or you may be in a incapacitated, condition if you don't get in charge of that. So I'm just asking you, just think that you know what you need to do.
Right.
I certainly don't have to tell you because you're a healthcare provider yourself, but you need to do it. You got to thing, and you got to accept what you think and just move forward if you want to see that. So that was kind of like my wake up call when I had that frank conversation with my provider. I'm thankful that he did that.
Mm.
And so that's when I realized I had to start making changes.
Mm. I was reading one of your bios, and I think one of the questions that was asked by a doctor was something to the effect of did you want to see I think your son graduate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So I mean that's a pretty it's a bold statement, but it and like you said that you're glad that you were told that because it was a wake up moment for you. But when the doctor says that, what do those words mean to you when he said it? What was the first, like, I mean, because just listening to it, I was like, wow, that's like an uppercut. Like
yeah,
that
yeah,
you expect the right hook or
yeah,
the jab to come, but it came from
yeah,
underneath.
yeah. And I said I appreciate it. I think, I don't know if this is the case with everybody, but a lot of times I find that healthcare providers, and I know from my own experience when working with people the other way, a lot of times they would tell you the worst patient is another healthcare provider
I've
because
heard
they
it.
know more than
Yeah.
the average person, and then and they can feel like they can challenge you. They may feel like that the things don't apply to them because of their own knowledge or their own belief.
Mm,
So
okay.
I guess I'm believing that he probably felt like, because I would come in there and my condition get worse, A1C is going up, and increasing on medications, but the things are still going up, and he's like, and so, so I kind of appreciate if he hadn't done it that way, that I might not woke up.
Wow.
So I really, I really appreciate it. I guess he felt like it was a way to try to get to me, because it's like, um, I come in and the A1C is up, and then he's like, well, you need to do this, and you need to take this. And then you come
Mm,
in, 6 months, a year later, and it's up again. It's like, what do I have to tell this guy, to get him
wow.
to do it? So, yeah. So I'm really, like I said, I'm really appreciated to that. That was kind of like the, cold water drawn on your face.
Wow. D- the African American Wellness Project. As I was doing my research, they listed the top 10 um, diseases or killers of people in the Black community. Diabetes came in sixth. And some of the things that they had listed as to why it came in at six was genetics, diet, and things like the lifestyle factors. Um, how much of the number one? Why do you think, in your professional opinion, why do you think it affects so many in the Black community like that? And then expound on how much of it is genetics, how much of it is lifestyle, and expound on that just a bit.
Well, I think that we don't know kind of like what percentage is what. We just know all those things can be a factor. We don't know how much, and that's part of the reason why we have, clinical research ongoing, and that's why I would encourage everybody, especially African Americans, if you have opportunities to participate in clinical research, please, if you're able to do so, because we do need that data. We need that to know, so that we can tailor future treatments. If there is if there is a genetic component to it, then we can tailor medications to address that if that's possible. But the only reason we will know it if people participate in these studies and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
so we can determine that. But I think that, in like I said, we don't know the percentage. We just know all those things are like factors. I believe that stress is a factor. I believe that the
Mm,
stress, particularly with our community, the stress of day to day living, we have the normal burdens as everyone else, but then we have the added component of racism that we have to deal
yes.
with, and we don't know. It's not a clear way to quantify that, and how much that, how much of a percentage of that weighs into that too. We just know that that's, I mean, in my mind, that's definitely like a factor.
Mm,
And lifestyle choices. From the foods that we eat, our foods. That's one of the things I've just learned over the years, just how big a factor that is
mm,
in type 2 diabetes and other chronic diseases. Is that um, so much of our food is processed and ultra processed, and just a lot of the stuff that's in those foods are not very good for anybody.
right.
you
Right.
know and then, but if you're someone that have limited means, the predominantly of low price cost foods are
Right.
processed and ultra processed. That's how the prices can be low on them, because of that, fact
Right.
aspect of that is far away from natural as possible. So I just think it's like I said, it's all those factors. It gets hard to get, really kind of put a percentage on what is what, but I just think all those things play a role.
Wow. So you mentioned, and I know the processed food, but for a long time I've heard that um, what we know as soul food or black food also plays a role. And let's be honest. I mean, you get together with family, you know how we do.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
how we do now. I mean,
yeah,
so I mean, and if you tell somebody in the black community that, hey, that food may not be the best for you, you're gonna get you're gonna get that
yeah,
side eye, like, man,
yeah,
what now?
yeah,
So what are we supposed to do when we get together and we you gotta have the greens and the mac and cheese. You gotta have the yam. I mean, and
yeah.
all that is good. Now, and I guess the question is that food off? Should that food be off the table, or should we just say, hey, in moderation, people, in moderation?
I would say I would say it would be like in moderation. I think the worst thing we can do, and I've done this in some other talks that I've done, is that the worst thing we can do is just tell people you can't have that. Like I said, you can't have the food that grandma cooked. You can't have the
Right.
food that your abuela cooked for you. That's totally off limits because like you said, you're factoring in not just a thing. It's a cultural thing. It's a social
Right.
thing to component to that, and that may affect someone's mentality that like, oh well, if I can't eat that, then I'm just not gonna make it. I'm just gonna just this disease is just gonna get the best of me, and then I'm just gonna lose my limbs and my sight, and just waste away or whatever, than to do that. And like I said, I think that and anybody that I work with, it would just be I don't tell anybody that you can't have something, because with things like with human nature, when you tell people they can't do it, that makes people want it even
Yep.
more a lot of
Yep.
times. So my thing is just like moderation. There's things that you can do with that. There's ways
Mhm.
that you can prepare, like say, like like the vegetables that will be like more natural, and you have more of the nutrients, more of the good stuff will be in there, and less of the bad stuff will be in there. And there's
Mm.
slight changes that you can do. It's not like you have to get rid of everything. Like you can, substitute. Like if you have something that's like milk in there, you can substitute. Like you may can substitute like almond milk or something that's a
Okay.
little more healthier for that in the recipe and stuff. And a lot of times you won't be able to tell much of the difference between that. So I think that in the amount of moderation you have to do, like if you're like if you're like in a really bad shape, say if your A1C is double digits and stuff, then you're gonna have to make bigger adjustments than somebody that
Mm.
might A1C might be like slightly elevated above the norm, if they're like a 7 or 7.5 or something like that. So I think that like I said, uh, I would encourage like moderation.
Mhm.
The more severe your condition is, the more you have to moderate and adjust than people that are not. But that would be my suggestion.
Mm. Because I'm hearing you say that, and I can only imagine, because if somebody was to tell me, hey, you can no longer eat your mother's mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it wouldn't go well. That conversation wouldn't go well. I'd be like, hey, I might have to take one for the team. You got to come with something different, because
Yeah.
hey, so I can understand. I can relate to that. So you have a program called Master Your GLP-1, correct?
Yes, and I have that, and just like a diabetes prevention program too, which that's more for people that might be in pre-diabetes, that they might be diagnosed with pre-diabetes, and try to prevent that from going into full
Hmm.
type 2 diabetes.
So
So
while you're on that, can you expound on the differences of, because you got pre-diabetes, then I believe you have diabetes one, then two. Can you educate
yeah.
us, and what's the differences?
Okay, well, like Pre-diabetes is usually where people are most time that diagnose that their blood glucose level is elevated above
Mm-hmm.
the norm, but it's not to the level where it's into like full type 2 diabetes. And so usually people at that stage, the biggest thing, it would be like lifestyle changes that they can fully reverse and come back out of that and be like into like a normal range.
Okay.
So that's kind of like where most people find out that they may be on the path, or that they may take like a just a general lab test and they find their glucose elevated, and the
Okay.
doctor deals with that. Now, type 1 diabetes is a different type of diabetes. It's more of a that is more with a genetic component. Most people have that. They're usually like um, bo- they're born with that condition, and it may some people have it at birth. Some people it may not develop until they're like a teenager. Sometimes it may not even develop in the adult. But what happens with that is that the difference with that and the other diabetes is that your for whatever reason, usually with something malfunction with the pancreas, that they are unable to produce insulin. So that's why they have the elevated blood sugars and stuff like that. So usually, what they have to do, they have to have their insulin like supplemented and keep really on top of that. Keep themselves monitored, checked. A lot of times, people may have to be on a pump, an insulin pump that regularly injects insulin on a regular basis. So they
Mm-hmm.
have insulin. So they don't have insulin. They're not producing insulin at all whatsoever. So they usually have to spend their lives either taking shots or being on insulin pump, or that their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually, and it used to be called like juvenile diabetes, because most of the time when
Okay.
people find out when they got there was usually, and I think a lot of times because of the hormonal changes that people would come when they got to be teenagers or close to teenagers. That's when they usually will find out when they're for whatever reason that their pancreas stops making insulin.
Okay.
And type 2 diabetes, that's the most common diabetes, where it's like your body is, most cases, your body is producing insulin, but your body has become resistant to the insulin that you're producing, and it's no longer working, because insulin is supposed to be there to help remove the blood glucose and when it becomes like elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hormone to help remove that and keep it stabilized or whatever.
Okay.
And whatever reason that your either like your body has become resistant to the insulin that you're producing and is no longer removing that glucose, so then your glucose becomes elevated in your bloodstream. And like they said, like that's what people talk about, like where the blood sugar is elevated. And the bad thing about that, if that is left untreated, is that having all that glucose in your bloodstream is not good, because then it starts damaging like your blood vessels. So that's why the diabetes is the main cause of amputation, like feet amputation is the main cause of that. A big cause of kidney failure is due complications of type 2 diabetes. The leading cause of blindness is related to type 2 diabetes, that people lose their sight um,
Mm.
with that. So that's why it's so important to get that under control, because the elevated blood glucose affects like your blood vessels, and your blood vessels that go into your organs, and then then also like it puts you at risk for stroke as well, because again the blood vessels that go into your brain is not getting things, puts you at risk for cardiovascular issues, because again like blood vessels are not getting the blood to the right thing, so the your heart may not work as well. You're at
Mm.
risk for like heart attack or stroke as well. So
Mm. I, um, so what? Well, I think I know the answer to this, but when you created Master your GLP-1, what was the I don't want to say catalyst, because I believe that was your own diagnosis, but I guess what inspired you? Was it your history of being a pharmacist and helping people, and you just felt that calling to, okay, I've gone through this, now I've got to help somebody else?
Yeah, so I didn't want people to, experience what I experienced, and I know the, the pressures. I know the kind of like the people reluctance to accept the condition. I know the denial that happens with people, and then it happens with all people. But then I think especially like people that feel like that they're educated and they have a family history, and they may feel like ashamed of what happened and don't deal with it because they don't want to deal with it. They don't want to face it. And then with A1C, I was seeing when I was a pharmacist that there are new tools that are available, but like I said, people just have to realize that it's a tool, and there's a lot of unfortunately a lot of misinformation out
Mm,
about these products, and I just want to help people, and that these products are good, but you kind of need to monitor it because what it's
mm,
doing is that it's replacing or supplementing a hormone that happens in our body that tends to reduce or suppress like our appetite. And so, because those hormones are located in our gut, a lot of the side effects of the medication are gut related. So, a lot of people experience diarrhea, they experience stomach upset, they
mm,
experience, some people even might even go into reversing where they experience constipation. Um, some people, nausea is a big thing with those medications and stuff. And
mm,
so, you have to be aware of those effects, and that what you eat can make those effects worse or less, and depends on what you eat. What you eat. If you're still eating a lot of high fat processed food, then those symptoms are going to be worse than if
mm.
you're someone that's moderate in that.
As you're coaching these individuals through this time of their life, what do you do or say or explain? How do you keep them, motivated? Because I'm hearing all of the side effects that you just listed, and I'm like, wow, I can only imagine going through that and just saying, screw this. This is way too much. Like, how do you keep them motivated? How do you keep their eye on the prize to say, hey, I know it's tough now, but look towards the future?
Well, the motivated is I try to focus on small steps. Um, to put the primary focus on small steps, and like making changes, and then like say if someone has the GLP-1s and some of the side effects are like really bad, which sometimes in some people they are, like especially when they first start taking it, they're like, oh man, I can't do this, I can't be,
Right.
got diarrhea, and I'm afraid I'm a, you know have to go at work and just all
Right.
this stuff, and the thing is that you just kind of get people like, if you're able to make it through, today and make it to the next day, um, if you get them focused just on making it like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then
Mm,
hopefully like a week, and then a lot of times for people as they take in, their body gets used to it, then and they're not eating crazy, that a lot of those side effects lessen over time or whatever and stuff like that, and then they can kind of see it, but you got to get through that early part till your body stabilized with that, or with, even if people are not taking that, or people I'm working with that they're just taking medication, or even people that are pre-diabetic and they're trying to prevent from being diabetes. So we just focus on I have 4 areas that I concentrate on. I did work on, we work on, of course, like nutrition. We work on movement. Like I said, physical activity.
Okay.
I don't say exercise as such a bad connotation for a lot of people. So because my goal is just to get moving, not necessarily because a lot of people when they think of exercise they like being in the gym and sweating and being there for hours and stuff, and that's like a turn off if I haven't even been in the gym in 20 years when you're gonna say I'm out there being there pulling weights and all that stuff. No, 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 just like movement. My biggest thing is like the big magic pill uh, that I try to use or emphasize is walking. Walking is such a so beneficial. It's been so understated that you don't have to. It's relatively inexpensive. All you have to do is just have a good pair of shoes and walk. You don't have to have a gym membership or anything like that.
Right.
And studies are showing more and more that the benefits of like even walking, that studies are showing now if you walk, do 10 minutes of like a moderate walk after eating your biggest meal, then that lowers the blood sugar spikes that a lot of times people
Mm.
experience that have type 2 diabetes and stuff like that, that you minimize. You want to kind of you want to kind of lessen those so that your insulin doesn't have to work. So whether you produce it yourself or you supplement it, that your insulin doesn't have to work as hard to
Okay.
function. So, and then I focus on stress reduction. Just being able to just being able to relax, being able to just mentally just increase like your mental balance, stuff like that. And then also the last factor is sleep. That's a big factor too. That even studies are showing more and more now that low amount of sleep causes like people that have elevated blood sugar, especially like overnight.
Mm.
That just because when you lack sleep, that your body thinks they're under stress, so they produce a hormone known as cortisol, and cortisol is great. It was great when we lived in a pre-industrial society, and we had to hunt for our food, and we had to use our energies and staying safe and avoiding animals and stuff like
Mm.
that. And that was great, but we don't live in that anymore. So we don't need our levels of cortisone, and needing that is pretty reduced. But when we do these things that cause like inflammation, which then in turn increases cortisol as well, and cortisol drives up like your blood glucose, because the purpose of that is like when you're trying to run away from a wild animal, you want to have all that blood glucose and sugar that so you can run out the way or climb a
Right.
tree or whatever you got
Yeah.
to do to get out the way. But when you work in day to day sitting in a computer for 8 hours a day, you don't really need that. You don't
Gotcha.
need all that blood sugar in your bloodstream. So
Gotcha.
so those are the big areas that I address with the people that I work with.
You mentioned earlier. You said, and correct me if I'm misquote, but you said something to the effect of, um, you know, uh, giving people the necessary treatments or medications is fine, but you like to deal with promoting the life change, the mindset, if you will.
Yeah.
um, how important is mindset in changing a person's health?
It's totally, that's probably the biggest thing, because if you don't have the proper mindset, then all of those areas of change, you're not going to implement, because if you don't believe that it's going to be helpful for you, then you're not going to do it. That's what my thing had to do. That was like my wake up call, because I knew all the things, I knew all the medications, I knew all the effects, I knew that I knew all the complications that could develop, with type 2 diabetes. But I just had to reframe my mind. I mean, that's probably like that's definitely the biggest thing, because if you don't believe that it's a condition that you can live with. In some cases, some people can mitigate it, and some people even get it where it's it's never gone, but it's like where it's like kind of like where they don't have any like symptoms or minimum symptoms and stuff of the condition, that their blood sugar is basically almost at the normal rate.
Mm. So as you're going through all this and you're helping other people, um, do you bring this same, I guess, this mentorship or this same coaching to your own family? Like, because I'm picturing, families getting together. We talked about it earlier. How Black people do. We get together. We have great food.
Mhm.
We have, and some have great fun, and they eating healthy is out the window at that point.
Mhm.
At least on that day. At least
Yeah,
on that day.
yeah,
You could be dieting for months, but on that day,
yeah.
you know. But do you try to bring this into your own? Do you say, hey, you know, um, I don't know who's doing the mac and cheese because you know how people get about their mac and cheese.
Mhm.
But I don't know who's doing the mac and cheese. But instead of using milk, hey, try almond milk. And are you received well?
um, like I said, I did when they have family reunions,
Hmm.
and I don't think so much like that, because I usually like which I say like to my clients, because it's like if it's something like that, you can just like, I know some people say they don't believe or some things about like a cheat day per se, but I
Right.
think if that's like said, like you said yourself, I mean, it's almost like it's difficult and unavoidable, where I just try to be like, well, if you do this, you can then, but maybe like take smaller portions, or like if you're gonna have like say mac and cheese, but make sure you have a good amount of vegetables like collards or something with it, or something like that to kind of balance it out, some, so that the effect will not be as bad, like try to, you can eat carbs, but try not to overload on bad carbs, or try to,
Right.
balance it out with, vegetables, or even even just having some water instead of thing that can, help balance out those things. But yeah, I don't mess with people's. I know like people's mac and cheese and things like that. I know better to do anything like that. I'll get thrown. I get thrown out the cookout then. So, but yeah, I'm like somebody that and like I said, when we were talking about earlier, that because I know it's more than just food with us. It's a lot of
Right.
it's social and traditional. It's so much baked into our culture that you know I wouldn't want to disturb or destroy that.
Right. So, in your professional opinion, what's because you mentioned misinformation. What's one of the biggest health myths out there that you've heard that could probably um, derail someone's path on living healthy or
I think the biggest thing is that people believe that I think when we talk about type 2 diabetes, is that if they don't eat if they don't really eat sweets, then they can avoid or mitigate type 2 diabetes,
mm,
which that's again, you may not want to have too many sweets or whatever, but that in itself is probably not going to alleviate type 2 diabetes. I mean, because it's more of a battle of carbs, but not carbs, because there are good carbs and there are bad carbs. It's usually a combination of bad carbs and a sedentary lifestyle, and it's usually a
mm,
combination of those things. Not because you have a sweet potato pie and you cut that out, then that's going to resolve it.
gotcha. Uh, What? Let me ask this: if you could tell uh, the masses out there, if you could tell them one, you can give them one piece of advice, one word of wisdom, in relation to the fight against diabetes, or just living healthy, or maybe changing the mindset. If you could give them one piece of information, what would Dr. Hersey say to them?
I would say to them is that um, accept that you have this condition. It's not, a, it's not a death sentence. It's not, it's something that you have to live with and be mindful that it's something that you probably always going to have to live with, even if it's mitigated or reversed. You still have to kind of keep that at the back of your mind.
Okay.
But the biggest thing is that, but it's not a death sentence. You can move forward. Just focus on small steps, small, just accumulation, just like you accumulated a lot of bad things to get in this thing, you can accumulate a lot of good things over time to reverse it into the other direction. And that, you just always keep it in mind. Don't accept where you're at, and move forward. And I know that's hard, and it's no need to blame, well, I should have done this, I should have done that, but you have to go forward, and you can go forward. And I would tell people to focus on making the small daily changes than the big change. The big changes, if you do the small daily ones, the big changes will come as accumulation of the small steps that you're doing. Focus on the small steps that you're doing, and then the big step overall. Then when you look back on it, you do like small steps over, even just like a 90-day period. You look back 90 days. You could look back and have you, next time you go into the doctor, have your A1C check. Your A1C could be down two points from the last
Mm.
time because you made those changes. And then if you continue to do that, 3 months from then, it could be down another point. And then you may, in 6 months, may have it into a normal level. And then when you have it in the normal level and you keep showing the doctor that you're doing that, they can reduce, they don't have to add on medications. They can reduce medications. It may even get to a point where you could be on, instead of being on 4 or 5, you can be on, one maintenance medication at a low dose, or you may be on none and just keep it monitored if your condition lasts long enough. But to get there, like I said, it was a series of small steps that put you in the condition, and it's going to be a series of small steps that will get you out.
Awesome. Awesome. So Dr. Hersey, if you would be so kind, if somebody had more questions, if somebody said, man, what he said spoke to me. I need to work on, my health. I need to work on my mindset. I need to, I think I might be pre-diabetic. I've received the diagnosis and just am living in denial. How can they how could they get in touch with you? Maybe social media, website, uh talk about the Destroying Diabetes podcast, and just how can people get out and contact you?
Okay, well, I do have the Destroying Diabetes podcast, and you can listen to that wherever you get your podcast from. We're all the major major streams. So pretty much most major streams that you listen to podcasts, you can listen to Destroying Diabetes. You can look for me at in Instagram. You can do the at that Destroying Diabetes, and that's like an Instagram handle. You can also look me up on LinkedIn, and it's Destroying Diabetes Facebook page. And then also there is my website, www.masteryourglp.com. And for your viewers and listeners,
Hmm.
I'm offering, like, you can go to that website, and if you want to sign up for like a 15-minute free discovery call, and we can just talk about things, and talk about the issues that you have, and see like if you can be someone that can benefit from the coaching program.
Awesome. Also, Lifestrong family, you heard him. Free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Hersey. If you feel that you've been exhibiting signs that you could be pre-diabetic, or maybe you've gotten the diagnosis that you may be, diabetic, maybe diabetes 2 or something of that. 15-minute consultation with Dr. Hersey. I'm sorry, and you hopefully he can get you on the right track to a better life, a more healthy life, because as he said earlier, this is not a death sentence. All right. So Dr. Hersey, I don't know why I want to say Hersey. Dr. Hersey, I don't know where that's coming from, but Dr. Hersey, we appreciate both your transparency and your service to the community in this endeavor. This is I think it's one of those areas where for years it's been plaguing the community, but for some reason it's we don't always get the information. We get, by the time we get the information, it's too late. Like you said earlier, we're it's getting to the point of an amputation, or you're on all types of medicine for the rest of your life, and you're just you're in a situation where you can't leave the house. You can't. It's just too late. And I definitely, I really hope that somebody listening to this episode, if you are exhibiting any of those signs, or if you feel you might be, reach out to Dr. Hersey and get that 15 minutes. He said to everybody that, all the listeners from the Lifestrong Project, a free 15 minutes. 15 minutes could save your life. And I think it's worth it. I think it's. What do you think, Dr. Hersey?
Yeah, I do. I hope certainly if you feel that you have that, if you had it for years and you feel like your medications are just increasing and you're not seeing any relief, if you're someone that they just told you that you're pre-diabetic and that and you want to know what you want to do to keep from developing to type 2 diabetes, or if you're someone in between that, or if you're someone that have a loved one in that, sometimes your loved one may be in denial and you want to be armed with the information to take to them to try to get them to pursue some lifestyle changes to be able to get their condition under control. So yeah, anybody that want to know, or you just want to educate yourself further about it, feel free to contact me.
Awesome. So listen, family, some fights define the course of our lives. In a world where chronic disease has become increasingly common, taking control of our health is no longer just a personal decision. It's a commitment to our families, our communities, and the legacy we'll leave behind. The fight for better health isn't about perfection. It's about choosing progress one decision at a time. This is the fight we cannot afford to lose. All right. So on behalf of Dr. Keith Hersey, we appreciate you again, sir, for stopping through and just dropping the, this giving us the information that a lot of us probably didn't have, and getting us on the right path. Lifestrong family, that's a wrap for today. And as always, we thank you for listening. And remember, your life is fleeting, cherish it. Your life is ever changing. You have to adapt to it. And most of all, your life is yours. Only you can live it. On behalf of Dr. Keith Hersey again, I'm your boy AyeCee. Appreciate it. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the Lifestrong Project.